She strolled in like any other customer. But what happened next left the boutique staff when the IC manager in shock. The truth about her identity would shake them to their core, and the fallout would be unforgettable. The boutique on Rodeo Drive in Beverly Hills wasn't just a store, it was a symbol of exclusivity. Gleaming glass doors, framed by pristine white marble, opened into a sanctuary of luxury. Rows of designer handbags, sparkling jewelry under spotlight displays, and clothing priced higher than most people's monthly rents filled the space. This was no place for window shoppers, at least. That was how Helena, the boutique manager, saw it. Helena had made her name on one simple principle: protect the brand. She ran a tight operation, no idle chatter among employees, no fingerprints on the glass counters, and absolutely no tolerance for anyone who didn't look the part. Tall, with a perfectly sculpted bob and a tailored pantsuit, she was the gatekeeper of this world. Exclusivity isn't just about price, she often reminded her team. It's about image. That particular Tuesday was no different. The store hummed quietly, classical music playing softly in the background, while Helena stood by the entrance, her sharp gaze scanning for anything out of place. Then the doors opened. A woman entered, tall, poised, wearing oversized sunglasses and a simple cream coat. Her heels clicked softly against the marble floor as she took in the store, her fingers brushing lightly over a rack of silk scarves. To Helena, it was obvious this woman wasn't a regular. There was something slightly off. Maybe it was the understated outfit, or maybe it was the way she lingered a bit too long at the jewelry case. Helena's instincts kicked in. She approached quickly, her smile stiff and her voice cordial but firm. "Ma'am, we have a private appointment scheduled shortly. I'm afraid I'll need to ask you to leave." The woman lowered her sunglasses, revealing piercing blue eyes that caused a brief flicker of recognition in Helena. Had she seen her before? But it was gone in a second. Helena quickly dismissed the thought. "I assure you, I'll only be a moment," the woman said, her tone calm and even. "I just wanted to look around." Helena's professionalism began to crack, her resolve solidifying. "I'm sorry, but this is a private establishment. If you'd like to book an appointment, we'd be happy to arrange that for another time." For a brief moment, the woman's expression didn't change. Then, without a word, she slid her sunglasses back on and walked out, her heels clicking sharply against the marble as she left. Helena watched her go, a faint sense of satisfaction settling in. She had done her job, protected the brand. But something about the encounter left her uneasy. The woman's poise, the unshaken calmness. There was something more to her, something that made Helena feel like she just missed something important. At first, Helena didn't think much about it. In her line of work, people came and went. Some tried to bluff their way into the world of high-end luxury, hoping to seem wealthier or more important than they were. She'd seen it all: wannabe influencers, flashing fake designer bags, curious tourists who didn't get the whole by appointment only thing, and even the occasional tabloid reporter looking for a scoop. It was nothing new. As the day continued, Helena focused on her usual tasks. She oversaw a new shipment of couture dresses, ensuring each hemline was pressed perfectly before they were displayed. She checked the lighting on the jewelry cases, making sure each diamond sparkled just right. To her, the boutique was a stage, and she was its director. No detail was too small to escape her notice. But later that evening, as she locked up the store and headed home, the memory of the mysterious woman started to linger. Something about her, the calm confidence, the way she carried herself, made Helena uneasy. She had dismissed her with the certainty of someone who thought they held all the power, but now she couldn't help but wonder who that woman really was. The next morning, Helena's routine began as usual. She arrived early, walking through the store to ensure everything was in its proper place. By mid-morning, whispers began to ripple through the staff. One of the sales associates, a young woman named Sophia, approached Helena hesitantly. "Did you hear about the woman from yesterday?" Sophia asked, her voice low but brimming with excitement. Helena raised an eyebrow. "What about her?" Sophia glanced around before continuing, her voice dropping to a whisper. "One of the customers this morning said it." The woman who had been dismissed so quickly was none other than Melania Trump. Helena froze, her hand gripping the edge of the counter. She stared at Sophia, the weight of the words sinking in slowly. Melania Trump, she repeated, her voice laced with skepticism. Yes, Sophia confirmed, nodding earnestly. They showed me a picture on their phone. It was definitely her. Helena's mind raced. Could it be true? Had she, in her rigid commitment to protocol, just turned away one of the most famous women in the world? A wave of unease swept over her, but she quickly masked it with her usual composure. It doesn't matter who she was, she said briskly. Rules are rules. We can't let just anyone walk in without an appointment. But deep down, Helena knew this wasn't just anyone. Though she tried to push it out of her mind, a gnawing feeling took hold. If it had truly been Melania Trump, what would happen next? The news spread far quicker than Helena could have imagined. By afternoon, the boutique was buzzing with whispers from both employees and customers. She looks so elegant, one customer murmured as she perused the handbags. I can't believe someone treated her like that. I heard she walked out without saying a word, another customer chimed in. So classy, but you just know she was furious. Helena overheard bits of these conversations, and a knot tightened in her stomach. The world of high fashion wasn't just about luxury, it thrived on reputation. One misstep, especially with someone like Melania Trump, could tarnish the brand for years. That evening, as Helena scrolled through her phone, a chill ran through her. Social media had caught wind of the story. Someone, likely a customer, had posted a vague yet damning account of the incident. A boutique manager just kicked out one of the most famous women in America. Classless behavior in a so-called luxury store. Though the boutique wasn't named outright, the comments were filled with speculation. People tagged brands, asking for clarification, with some claiming they knew exactly which store it was. Helena's chest tightened. She tossed her phone aside, trying to convince herself it would blow over. People always overreact online, she muttered under her breath. But her confidence wavered. The next day, her worst fears were realized. A local news outlet ran a short segment, speculating about the identity of the boutique. Though they never confirmed it outright, the coverage was enough to make her feel exposed. Customers started arriving, not just to shop, but to gossip. One woman, holding a latte and wearing oversized sunglasses, leaned in toward her friend and whispered loudly, "This is the place, isn't it?" Helena's mask of control began to slip, but she held her ground, sure that Melania wouldn't come back. Someone as high profile as her wouldn't bother revisiting a place where she'd been disrespected. Yet Helena was wrong. It came on a Friday afternoon, during the boutique's peak hours. The showroom, bathed in sunlight, buzzed with well-dressed patrons browsing the racks. Sales associates moved quickly to accommodate them. Helena stood near the cashier counter, exuding her usual air of authority, but even she couldn't have predicted what was about to happen. The glass doors swung open with force, and in walked the woman she had so quickly dismissed, Melania Trump. But this time, she wasn't alone. A small entourage followed her, security in tailored suits, a woman holding a sleek leather briefcase, and another figure who appeared to be a publicist. Several photographers lingered just outside, their cameras poised to capture every moment. The quiet hum of the boutique turned to gasps and whispers. Melania stood tall, her presence magnetic. She wore a fitted black dress, simple yet commanding, paired with diamonds that shimmered with every movement. Her gaze scanned the boutique, and for a moment, everything felt still. Helena's heart sank. She felt her cheeks flush and her hands grow clammy as she locked eyes with Melania, who looked at her for what felt like an eternity. There was no anger in her gaze, no scorn, just an air of quiet control that unnerved Helena more than any confrontation ever could. "Good afternoon," Melania said, her voice calm yet firm. "I'd like to look around now. Is that allowed?" The question hung in the air, a weight that couldn't be ignored. Every employee froze, eyes darting between Melania and Helena. Customers whispered behind their hands, their curiosity barely contained. Helena's instincts screamed at her to say something, to regain control of the situation. But no words came. Instead, she nodded stiffly and stepped aside, allowing Melania to browse the store she had been so abruptly turned away from just days before. As Melania moved through the boutique, her entourage followed closely. She didn't rush. She took her time, examining each display, fingers brushing over fabrics and eyes pausing on price tags. It felt less like shopping and more like an evaluation, as though Melania were noting every detail, every misstep Helena had made. The tension in the boutique was palpable. Even the customers seemed to tread lightly, moving more cautiously as they observed the scene unfolding before them. Helena, meanwhile, could feel her authority slipping away with every passing second. But the moment that would truly change everything was still to come. The atmosphere in the boutique became electric, charged with suspense and anticipation. Customers pretended to browse but kept their eyes fixed on the scene. Employees stood at attention, unwilling to risk slacking off in such a moment. Helena, for her part, tried to blend into the background, but it was impossible. Melania had placed the spotlight directly on her. As Melania approached the jewelry case, her gaze swept over the display before pausing at an elaborate diamond necklace. She glanced at Clara, a junior employee, who stepped forward hesitantly. "May I see this piece?" Melania asked, her tone polite but laced with authority. Clara, slightly fumbling, managed to retrieve the necklace and placed it on the counter. "Of course, ma'am," Clara replied. Melania studied the necklace for a moment before glancing over her shoulder. "What do you think?" she asked, directing the question not to her entourage, but to Helena, who stood frozen just a few feet away. Helena was caught off guard. She stammered, struggling to find her voice. "It's a beautiful piece, one of our finest," she said, her words hollow even to herself. Melania nodded slowly, then turned back to Clara. "I'll take it," she said with a small smile, sliding her black credit card across the counter. As Clara completed the transaction, Melania turned back to Helena. Her expression remained calm, almost serene, but her words cut through the room like a knife. "It's important, don't you think," she said softly, "to treat everyone with respect, especially when you don't know who they are." The room fell silent. Every eye was on Helena, who felt as though the floor might give way beneath her. She struggled to form a response, but Melania didn't wait for one. Instead, she gestured to her publicist, who handed her a small envelope. "This is for your staff," Melania said, holding the envelope out to Helena. "A token of appreciation for their professionalism." Helena hesitated before taking it. The envelope was heavier than expected. Later, when she opened it, she would discover it contained a check for an astonishing amount, meant to be divided among the employees. It was a gesture of generosity that sharply contrasted with the quiet reprimand she had just received. But Melania wasn't finished. She turned to Clara, still holding the necklace, and offered her a warm smile. "Thank you for your help today. You've been wonderful." With that, she walked toward the door, her entourage falling into step behind her. The photographers outside sprang into action, capturing every moment as Melania departed. Inside the boutique, silence reigned. Customers whispered among themselves. Employees exchanged stunned glances. Helena stood, rooted to the spot, her mind racing. She had underestimated this woman once, but the lessons she had just learned would be impossible to forget. The boutique remained unusually quiet long after Melania left. Customers trickled out, many with their purchases in hand, but all with stories they couldn't wait to share. Employees exchanged hushed conversations, still processing what had just happened. Helena stood near the jewelry case, her face pale, her hands trembling slightly as she stared at the envelope Melania had given her. She retreated to her office, closing the door behind her. Her hands shook as she pulled out the check, her eyes widening at the amount. It was enough to provide a significant bonus to every employee, a gesture of kindness that only magnified the weight of her mistake. Helena placed the check on her desk, her thoughts spiraling. She prided herself on professionalism and judgment, but today her own biases had been laid bare. She had dismissed someone based on assumptions, never stopping to consider who they might be or what they deserved. Her mantra of "protect the brand" suddenly felt hollow when weighed against the consequences of her actions. As she replayed the scene in her mind, a new realization began to take hold. The boutique wasn't just about exclusivity or luxury, it was about the experience. And the experience she had offered to Melania had been one of rejection, not respect. Helena felt a deep pang of shame, knowing her actions had not only damaged her reputation, but could have jeopardized the stores as well. A knock at the door startled her. It was Clara standing hesitantly in the doorway. "Are you okay?" Clara asked softly. Helena nodded, though her throat felt tight. "I'm fine," she managed to say. Clara didn't leave. "You know," Clara began, her voice tentative. "She wasn't angry. I mean, not really. It felt like she just wanted to make a point, not humiliate anyone." Helena met Clara's gaze and saw no judgment there, just a quiet understanding. It was a small kindness that brought Helena back to reality. She wasn't beyond redemption, but she knew she needed to change. "Thank you, Clara," Helena said, her voice more sincere than it had been in a long time. "And thank you for being everything I wasn't today." Clara smiled faintly before slipping out of the office. Helena leaned back in her chair, the check still in her hands, and made a decision. It was time to rebuild, not just her image, but the trust she had so carelessly risked. The next morning, Helena arrived at the boutique earlier than usual. The air was crisp, and the sun had just begun to bathe the streets in a golden glow. She took a deep breath before unlocking the doors, determined to face the day with renewed purpose. Her first order of business, a staff meeting. As the employees filed in, exchanging curious glances, Helena stood before them. "I owe all of you an apology," she began, her voice steady but laced with emotion. "Yesterday, I let my assumptions cloud my judgment. I treated someone unfairly, and in doing so, I let all of you down. That's not the kind of leader I want to be, and it's not the kind of example I want to set." The room was silent, but the weight of her words was felt by everyone. "We have an opportunity to learn from this," Helena continued. "Respect and kindness shouldn't depend on who someone is or who we think they are. That's a lesson I needed to relearn, and I hope we can all carry it forward." She placed the envelope Melania had given her on the table. "This check is for all of you," Helena said. "It's a testament to how well you handled yesterday, despite my shortcomings. You deserve this." A ripple of surprise and gratitude moved through the room. Clara, who had been the most directly involved, spoke up. "Thank you, Helena. I think we all learned something yesterday." Helena nodded, feeling a sense of relief. She wasn't perfect, far from it, but she was taking steps to make amends. The boutique wasn't just a store, it was a reflection of the people who worked there. And from that day forward, Helena vowed to ensure